Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to close out our reviews of the Grudge series with The Grudge 3. We already reviewed the 2004, we just recorded The Grudge 2, and we did The Grudge 2020 when it came out. So we are here to finish it up with The Grudge 3, which was the only straight to VOD, or at the time, straight to DVD movie in the series.
Yeah, and still the only one since the 2020 was theatrically released. So yeah.
And I can say I see why. This is my least favorite. It's, while having a more direct story than the second movie did, this one was easily worse because both Toshio and Kayako are different actors, and Toshio is looks like 5 years older than the Toshio was before. He's super tall and long legs that he's trying to tuck, but it's like, no, you're way too old to be Toshio.
It makes you wonder if it was the same kid and yet he just grew up.
No, it's not. I looked
sure?
at the names. Yeah, no, it's not the same two actors.
What's the deal then, man?
No, it was a really poor choice. But the other thing about this one is they could not light the bad guys to say that, they were so overlit that they looked blue instead of white.
Yeah.
And they looked not scary at all because they're fully shown the whole time, and you see the Kayako just trying to mimic the Kayako movements from the first two films, but she ends up looking more like one of the nurses from Silent Hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And yet I can just wonder if that was more to Takashi's directing. He's not directing this third one, and so maybe there was some slick little camera trick he had that was helping it look so janky and distinctive, or
maybe,
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, so overall I was not a fan of The Grudge 3, although the only thing I did like is that it picks up where the last one left off, at least with one of the characters. So that's all I liked. Everything else was pretty poo-poo to me.
A little bit They almost tried to grow the world, but yet also condense it and make it feel a little bit more personal in this one. We get Sadako's sister in there, Kayako's sister in this. I had to do it again in this one. Yep. We get Kayako's sister in this, and she is apparently the only one that can help close the circle of this curse. And so I thought that was an interesting writing choice. And once again, I did appreciate that we join up with the kid who, from Grudge 2, who is institutionalized, very similar to what happened with SMG in the first to the second film, and he's just positive that everything is going wrong. We have the apprentice from the Saw movies is the woman who is looking out for him and doesn't believe him, obviously. And so she has a role in this, which is cool. But the whole hammy just interplay between the surviving members of this family who are at the same Chicago apartment complex where the second film had a large chunk take place. Their story's bad, and the acting is bad, and it feels like not just on a budget scale, but in a caliber of acting, direct to video. So, yeah.
So hit the story real quick, Fuego. Let's burn through this. I don't want to waste too much time.
I feel you. So yes, the one surviving child from the Grudge 2 portion of the story that took place at the Chicago apartment where his family was crumbling, and his father gets killed by the new girlfriend who had just moved in. She hits him over the head with a frying pan. All this other stuff goes down, and he finds the girl who had come back to her family from Chicago. She'd been running around in this hood, and she gets taken at the end of it, and yet he survives, and he's in this institution. And the opening scene is one of the only scenes with a decent amount of blood. This was also R-rated, just like Grudge 2020 was.
Right.
And so it is kind of cool, and we can talk about it in the effects when he's just getting, you see it on the security camera.
That was the coolest part.
Rocked all over the room and stuff,
bent in all kinds of weird ways,
bloody and mangled and whatnot. And so he's done so, and then it basically turns into this whole story about them trying to do damage control at that Chicago apartment complex.
And figure out what happened to him.
Yeah, and also, first figure out what happened to him, and that's where, the character,
Amanda was in Saw.
Amanda,
it was her character name in Saw was Amanda.
Okay, yeah.
I said Jill the last time we brought her up, but I was corrected to Amanda.
Yeah, she was also in The Stand, and she's a decent actress, and so she goes to the complex to investigate, and she's sniffing around, and yet at the same time, while that's going down, we get acquainted with basically the guy who has been running the complex, and I guess I don't know if you would call him the foreman or the main manager of the complex, whatever. They're apparently having trouble renting rooms because of the death and all the press that it got, and so he has the owner of the property coming down on him, and he's stressed because he's also trying to be like the father of this family, and even though he's the oldest brother, he has a younger sister, and then he has two younger sisters, if I remember right. He's got a younger sister who's trying to move away, and then they have the youngest sister who's disabled, and it's not like an evident disability, but it's major health issues, and so yeah, that comes into play as well. But and then there's still the residual spiritual presence of Kayako. And Toshio, and
but they bring in, they try and deepen the storyline by bringing in Kayako's sister, who is still alive and supposedly can try and end the curse. So that's the crux of the storyline for this one.
So she comes over from Japan. We see her in an early scene in the film, and she's still tormented by everything that went down with her sister being killed, and her nephew and all that other stuff. And so since she has that unresolvedness, and she reads some of the stories that her boyfriend presents to her, and she's just obsessing over it, so she decides to travel from Japan to Chicago and try to figure out what is going on and see if she can help. And that's really the extent of what's going on in this story, aside from weird family inner drama that we touched on a little bit.
But that's why I can say this one felt the most streamlined story-wise, as opposed to jumping around. It was easy to follow.
I don't think a timeline jumped in this one.
No, not really. No. And so there was just a couple different characters you followed, but that was easy. That was easy enough compared to what we had to do in the last one. So yeah, I mean, the story was okay. I did like that they tried to wrap up the curse, and the way they did it, spoilers on a movie that is however many years old at this point. It was early 2000s, but they kind of create a different curse instead. It's not Kayako, but now Kayako's sister is a whole new curse. So I dug that. I like that aspect of the movie, but the rest of it was just so lackluster that I can't really say I liked the movie all in all.
Yeah, I didn't hate it though, and so that's one thing that I've watched so much more trash here on the Horror Show compared to the Grudge 3.
True.
And I think being VOD or direct to video as it was still at the time, I kind of thought it was going to be worse. And just for whatever reason, all of these Grudge movies, all three of the American ones at least that we got in this trilogy, I felt like they really found their footing a little bit in the third act. So the third act of this movie is actually decent.
Agreed.
And it's when we finally get some blood, and there are the death of a couple characters that I wasn't expecting, and they're done in a brutal fashion, and that's where we get the R rating from some of those kills and some of that blood we finally get.
Right.
And just the descent of madness of the older brother. It actually gets to an interesting point, in the third act once again. But it's very obvious from a visual and from an acting standpoint that there was less money to work with here, and that does not work to its help. So yeah.
So there you go, guys. That's going to do it for our review of The Grudge 3. Why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below if you watched this one. What did you think of it? Have you rewatched it recently? Do you remember it at all? I'm curious to know what everyone else's thoughts are on this one. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss episodes going forward. You can click that notification bell. And while you're down there in the description box, we have the link to our Patreon, where you can actually tell us movies that you want us to review and other fun things like that. So thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Cecil Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.